Welcome to the full moon forecast for Aries 2024. And my colleague and fellow astrologer Justin Crockett Elzie is joining me today. Hi Justin, how you doing today?
Great, Liz. How are you doing? Getting ready for this dynamic full moon tomorrow?
I certainly am. It's pretty a big one. It's a major one, that's for sure.
Yes, I'm excited to talk about this one.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
We'll get started. So Justin's website is justincrockettelzie.com and my website is alightpath.com, and we always enjoy hearing from you. So we have the Aries full moon, which is also called the new hunter's moon, on October 17th at 4:26 in the morning Pacific Daylight Time and 7:26 Eastern Daylight Time. And the sun and moon are opposite each other. So Aries is a cardinal fire sign that's ruled by Mars. Full moons are a time of culmination, a time to prepare to move forward and release and let go. Libra, the sun's in Libra, it's about balance, and Chiron, moon, and Eris are all conjunct in Aries, and I'm calling it the liberation and healing of emotions. And the caution would be inflicting emotional wounds. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's a good leap-off point. I think you got it covered.
Go ahead.
So, Liz, for the nakshatras or lunar nakshatras or lunar mansions, for this particular full moon, we look at both the sun and the moon. And so the sun, Surya here, is in the nakshatra Chitra, in the third pada or third section. And because there's 4 padas to a lunar mansion or nakshatra. And this particular star is called the Star of Opportunity. The ruling planet is Mars. So I think we're going to find out Mars is playing a major role here. And the ruling deity is Vishvakarma, if I could say that right. And he was the celestial architect. He was the one that built all the spaceships for the deities, the gods. And the keyword themes around this are skill, architect, diplomatic, technical, and relationship. And the symbol is a bright jewel of pearl. And the basis above is law and basis below is truth. Now, of course, this is in the sign of Libra, and hence why we have the law and truth here. What we see under this nakshatra is a lot of jewelers, a lot of people and that are lawyers. So it's sort of a technical way of seeing one's relationships, because we're going to see, of course, when we get in the chart tonight, how this applies to this dynamic chart, that this could be, as we look at the moon, and you said this is about some aspect of healing, this is a great time to really kind of dive in and get down to the details and the technical details as we try to fix relationships or heal wounds in our relationships or in our structure. So this is giving us this opportunity to be creative and technical and design what we want going forward. The nakshatra for the moon, Chandra, is Ashwini in the first pada. And this star is called the Star of Transport. And the ruling deities are actually the Ashwini Kumaras, which were the horse-headed gods, deities, and they were healers. And that's why the symbol is a horse head. And the ruling planet for this, of course, is Ketu, because in Jyotish astrology, the lunar nodes, Rahu and Ketu, are considered planets. So this is the south node, the lunar south node. That's the ruling planet for this. And so the keyword theme for this particular first pada in this Ashwini nakshatra is they're driven, risk taker. It's Aries, right? It's an Aries moon. And so it's pulling up its bootstraps and going forward in it, but it's competitive, but it wants to do it from a healing standpoint. It's a healer. So the basis above of this is creatures to be healed, and basis below is healing therapies. So that's a little bit about the nakshatras, and I'll refer back to these when we get into the chart today. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, yeah, because it's like they add significance to this full moon chart. So that's really cool that they correspond with the astrology chart. I like that.
Well, many times I've seen similar themes in the lunar mansion or nakshatras with the Sabian symbols many, many times. And so it's just really crazy. It's all synchronicity.
Okay. So I have a quote today. Whatever our individual troubles and challenges may be, it's important to pause every now and then to appreciate all that we have on every level. Shakti Guan. And then we have the chart here that marks the ascendant at 19 degrees of Virgo in orange, the midheaven at 16 degrees of Gemini, the sun at 24 Libra, and the moon at 24 Aries. And this is a chart for Seattle, Washington. So the west coast of the United States. And then we're going to start talking about the Sabian symbols now. In 1925, spiritualist medium Elzie Wheeler channeled the Sabian symbols with the assistance of Mark Edmund Jones. They are a symbolic image for each degree of the zodiac. So they're a phrase or a saying that's, 10 to 20 words. So we're going to look at those. So do you want to start, Justin?
Sure. So we first look at the ascendant, how we're moving forward into this new moon, our full moon on the west coast. So it's the Virgo 18 degrees. So what we're coming into this is an Ouija board is our symbolic image, and the keynote is the ability to contact deeper recesses of unconscious psyche and sensitiveness to psychic intimations and omens. Key phrase is manifestation of inner guidance.
And then Virgo 19, and we're using three Sabian symbols for each. So what's led up to, what's now, and what that degree is moving to. So Virgo 19 is a swimming race. The keynote is the stimulation that comes from a group effort toward a spiritual goal. The key phrase, what is needed in emulation, not competition.
And Virgo 20, which is a caravan of cars headed to the West Coast. The keynote here is the need for cooperative effort in reaching any new world of experience. Key phrase here is totalization of purpose and effort.
And then for the midheaven, we have 16 Gemini, and we're going to start with Gemini 15. Two Dutch children talking to each other, enhancing their knowledge. The keynote is the need to clarify one's experiences through actual contacts with like-minded individuals. And the key phrase is the need for objectivity has to be met.
And then Gemini 60. And can I just stop right here just for a second? I just had this epiphany, maybe just to kind of tell people as we're reading these, is that a lot of times these give us techniques of what to pay attention to during the full moon. So like that need for objectivity, that you just read. I think that's something, okay, during this time I need to be thinking about maybe objectivity and getting a second opinion. So I just thought I'd throw that in there if I could, that we're not just reading these for our health, that they're really a great tips and what to be focusing on for the full moon, especially if you're on the West Coast, because these are West Coast. Gemini 16 is a woman activist in an emotional speech dramatizing her cause. The keynote here is a passionate response to a deeply felt new experience. And the key phrase is the proselytizing mind.
And then Gemini 17, the head of a robust youth changes into that of a mature thinker. The keynote is the transformation of physical vitality into the power to build concepts and intellectual formations through which knowledge can be transferred. The key phrase is a process of mental metamorphosis. And to add on to what you were saying before, these were channeled and written basically 100 years ago. So sometimes the language is a little different than what we use nowadays, but they still have really good keynotes and things to add, like you said, about the objectivity of with this full moon to, be using our objectivity.
Right.
And then the Sabian symbols for the sun and the moon, we use 3 again. And no matter where your location, these will all apply. So it doesn't matter where the first 2 were more of the west coast of the United States. So do you want to start, Justin?
Sure. This is Libra 23 degrees. The Chanticleer's voice heralds sunrise. The keynote here is a creative and joyous response to life processes. Key phrase, the individual's capacity of response to life's renewals.
And then Libra 24, a butterfly with a 3rd wing on its left side. Keynote, the ability to develop for inner strengthening new modes of response to basic life situations. The key phrase is the establishment of such contact which constitutes a technique for original mutation.
And Libra 25, the sight of an autumn leaf brings to a pilgrim the sudden revelation of the mystery of life and death, the ability to discover in every experience a transcendent or cosmic meaning. Key phrase, a state of clairseeing or clairvoyance, of seeing through. So, yeah.
Right. And, life's renewal and mutation and clear seeing, those ones I would take with me for this full moon energy.
Yeah, and this is the sun, so back to the nakshatra on this one, we could see how that's that. If you go back to that screen here.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. If you think about what were those themes for the sun, which was the celestial architect, and it's about skill and diplomacy and relationship. We see that, I always sometimes think about a butterfly with a 3rd wing on its left side is a very kind of conceptual design thing we're talking about here, right? And that's sort of what we're talking about with the architect aspect here, is that it's this ability to develop, be technical in how you're doing something, ability to develop an inner strengthening through new modes of response. So it's a technique for original mutation, and it sort of is that back to the design architect concept there that I thought was kind of interesting, and then of course this mystery of life and death kind of speaks to the relationship aspect of that.
Absolutely. Okay, for the Sabian symbol for the moon, we have Aries 23, a pregnant woman in light summer dress. The keynote is facunity. Can't say that word tonight. And the key phrase is inner fulfillment.
Then Aries 24, blown inward by the wind, the curtains of an open window take the shape of a cornucopia. The keynote is openness to the influx of spiritual energies. Key phrase, acquired it's basically molded by transpersonal forces. Those people that are kind of like whipped each way by society, they're very much affected by it.
And then Aries 25, the possibility for man to gain experience at 2 levels of being. The keynote is the revelation of new potentialities, and the key phrase is possibility of a new step in evolution. The individual is truly on probation. So new doors opening.
Yes.
Because I always think of the full moon as a time to release, to make room for the new opportunities and possibilities to come in.
Right. I would agree.
Okay, and then the out of bounds planets this month. The moon's out of bounds from October 20th to the 24th, so a few days after the full moon. And then Venus later this month on October 27th will go out of bounds until December 3rd. And Ceres continues to be out of bounds until January 15th of 2025. And an out of bounds planet is a planet's declination of 23 degrees, 27 minutes north or south. And when it's a planet that's out of the bounds of the sun and they act on their own. And then here's an aspect key because we talk a lot about the aspects. And then here's a chart of the Aries full moon with all the aspects drawn in the middle, just so we can see that there's a lot going on there. And then I thought we'd talk about the cooperative aspects first. So we have an Earth Grand Trine. Did you want to say something?
No, I said go ahead.
So with the Earth Grand Trine, we have Uranus and Sedna together, trine Pluto, and trine Vesta. So to me, that's like, helping us to ground somewhat. And those planets are working back and forth together. And then we have a mystical rectangle, and mystical rectangles often offer us a gift of some sort if we're willing to take the challenge. And Mars is trine Neptune, Neptune's sextile Pluto, and Pluto's trine Vesta. And then they're opposite each other too. So it's like you have 2 sextiles, 2 trines, and 2 oppositions to make a mystical rectangle. And then we have a mini grand trine with Uranus, sextile to Mars, and Neptune. And then another mini grand trine with Mars, sextile Vesta, and Uranus. And another one with Pluto, sextile Venus, and Neptune. So there's a lot of cooperative energy, and a lot of the planets are involved. Pluto, Mars, Uranus, Neptune, so the outer planets, and Mars and Venus, both the personal planets, are involved. So there's a lot of activity going on there.
Right. Can I say something about that?
Sure.
So, I do see trines as cooperative, but they're neutral. So this is an easy flow of energy that can go either way. And because Uranus and Pluto are, major planets of change along with Mars. It's what we'll see in a minute with the the grand square in the chart, that these are feeding change. This is an easy flow of change that that's possible at this particular point in time, and anything that we want to do as far as resources or structures in our life, because it's all earth.
Yes, because sometimes those trines can be that you kind of get stuck in a groove and you just keep kind of staying in that movement. And sometimes you need something to kind of bounce you out of that. And I think with the Grand Cross, that's going to be kind of what bumps us out of that. But having the cooperative energy will assist and help with that.
Yeah, so I think so that cooperative energy can be an easy flow of energy towards something negative as well. So, like, if you have fear about change at this particular point in time, it'll feed that. It'll be a cooperative effort to feed your fear. So, because trines are very neutral one way or another, so that's I think it's focusing on the positive aspect of it. That we could use. There's a lot of mojo out there, frequencies, planetary energies helping us to create structural change in our life.
Okay, so let's get on to the adjusting aspects, I called them this month. And why don't you start talking about that Grand Cardinal Cross?
Yeah, that big square in the chart, the grand square there, it's really, I think this is the biggest thing in the chart for me personally, because Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth, and it's in Capricorn, and it's direct now, is squaring this sun and moon and forming a T square, of course. And then, of course, it's because Mars is opposing Pluto. Mars is planet, it's an agitator and a planet of action and efforts, is opposing Pluto. It's completing that grand square in the chart. And so I think this is really, and as you're going to point out, I know you pointed out before that there's these asteroids around the sun and the moon, which are being affected by that as well, like Hygeia, Eris, and Chiron on the moon. And then, of course, Juno, Lilith, and Mercury near the sun. So it's definitely creating this tension in relationships. Hence why you'd say, well, yeah, it's the political season, of course. Oh, but I think this is really, I think it's going to push people out of their comfort zones with a lot that's going on right now. What do you think?
Well, I agree with that, but with cardinal energy, that's about trying to initiate something. So, if you're trying to start something new or start a business, just be patient. You might have to have a couple starts to get it going. And oftentimes with the Grand Cross energy, it's like you can feel like, oh, this over here really needs my attention. Oh, but wait, this over here really needs my attention. Oh, now I got some other things, and trying to decide which one to tackle first. It kind of doesn't matter because they all need attention, but you can feel like you're being pulled in every direction, and be patient with yourself and do good self-care, through nutrition, sleep, exercise, fresh air, all the things that can help, and just tackle it, one step at a time, or one day at a time, or 1 hour at a time, however that would work for you.
Yeah, I agree. And there's an emotional component to this and a relationship component to it. I definitely think this is the time, if you want to make some changes in your life or your relationships, I think you should definitely go for it. Um, the square is asking us to take action, so there is an action oriented, and because the trine is there between Uranus and Pluto, there can be an easy cooperative effort. There just may be some things that I wouldn't say necessarily limitations, because I don't see Saturn necessarily affecting that as much, but there's definitely I think you said this a minute ago. I think maybe you think things are going to work out a certain way, but they don't. Things will work out a little bit different than what you probably planned. But there's an emotional component to it there because of Mars being in Cancer, and it's sextiling Uranus. So I think that's going to feed our emotions, how we're feeling around this change of structure in our lives. And this could also relate to political stuff as well, and this whole year a little bit. But then I think it's, for me, Liz, I think this is really sort of a major culmination of the nodes this year. Really focusing back on how we've been playing with the nodes in Libra and Aries. What do you think?
Well, I was just going to mention that because we've had the nodes in Aries and Libra, so self and others, and how we do relationships with both. And now we have a full moon in Aries. So how am I taking care of myself? Am I getting my needs met, or am I sacrificing myself to be in this relationship, whatever it may be? And how can we make those changes? Because the nodes are in a sign for a year and a half. And so that's been a highlight for, the past 14 months. And we have about 4 more months to go. And then they're going to shift in January, not even 4 months, but they're going to shift in January to Pisces and Virgo. So it's like, really pushing us like, okay, if you haven't made some of those decisions and choices of how you're going to work on your relationship, or let it go, or make improvements for yourself, it's kind of like the bells getting louder and louder and louder to address that.
Right. Absolutely.
And then we have a few other things in this chart. We have a T square with Jupiter, square Vesta, Nessus, part of Fortune descendant, and Neptune. And then we have a T-square with Pholus and Ceres square the nodes, which that one's been going on for a couple, 2.5 months now. So that one's been kind of a constant. So, with that T-square, we added the Cardinal Grand Cross. So it's kind of like, okay, it's time to work on cleaning out the chaos, I think,
Mm-hmm.
or the
Yeah.
things that don't work. It's like they're asking for our attention. Do you want to say anything else about those T-squares?
No. I think you got it covered.
And then we have 3 quincunxes. Quincunxes are 150 degrees apart. They can inform us of things, but they also ask for change, big change. So Uranus to the Sun and Juno, vested to Chiron, Moon, and Eris, and the North Node to Mercury, but there must be another one. No, that's it. Okay. So, they're just asking us to work on things. And Uranus has been, and the Sun and Moon have been very prominent in what we've been talking about tonight. So it's, kind of like pushing us in that direction of the changes that we need to make. It's like, sometimes I'll call it the wind in my sails, or, there's just like this energy pushing me forward, and it's like wanting us to break through.
I will say something about one of the quincunxes, the inconjuncts here, is the that Uranus to the Sun and Juno. Juno representing marriage, relationship, or relationship in general, relationship inside. And this, to me, with the Taurus Libra quincunx here, it just seems like to me that that there could be somewhat of a focus on resources when it comes to relationships, money, possessions, values, because Uranus is in Taurus, and it's that quincunxing the Sun in Libra, Juno. So it's almost like there may be some changes right now when it comes to resources. Could be a time to ask for a raise. With that Uranus in Taurus is creating change with resources and values. So there could be also some changes that come up in our relationships when it comes to any type of money or values with that.
Well, and people in a relationship with each other, one of them might be offered a job to make more money, and so that might be a challenge. Do you stay in the relationship and move with the person, or what do you do?
Right.
So, what would be your takeaway of this full moon?
Wow. Can that be my takeaway? Wow. No.
Yes, yes. And we can get to it in a few minutes because I have some other things to talk about. But
No. I think the takeaway with this is that this is sort of the culmination of the nodes this year, I think. And it's going to, if we haven't gotten off our duff and worked on relationships this year or done anything, this could be where we're pushed to make some changes in relationships. And it's a great time to do it. Just nurture your emotions. Mars in Cancer. Nurture your emotions and focus on healing.
well, that's a good one. And I would say, pack your patience, do good self-care, breathe, and just get to working on what you need to work on and tackle it one at a time.
Right.
Okay, the lunar phase family or gestations is the 4 lunar phases, the new first quarter, full, and last quarter. They complete a monthly lunar cycle every 29 and a half days. Pesson discovered that these phases play out in a 9-month intervals, and each moon family can reveal a pattern and unfolding story over time. So we're in the middle of the lunar phase family that started the new phase in April 19th of 2023, and we're at the full moon phase. So if you journal or keep track of what you've been working on, a lot of times you can look at how that's progressed. And now the full moon phase is, do you continue with it, or do you just release it, or do you put it on the back burner to work on maybe at a future date and move on with something new now.
And, can I say something about that full moon? And, also, I a lot of times tell people it's also a time to look at what did work and what didn't work before we start a new cycle.
Right, a good time for review.
Yeah. So that would definitely tell us we need to go back and think about what we were doing in April of 2023, right?
Right.
And we're not done with this lunar phase family until next year, till the summer of next year.
Right.
So that's interesting about this whole Aries
exactly.
lunar
And
phase.
each cycle is 9 months apart, approximately 9 months apart.
Yeah.
And then the yearly lunar phase, the new Aries new moon was on April 8th of this year, and it was a solar eclipse at 19 degrees of Aries. And now we're at the Aries full moon phase of releasing, and it's 24 degrees Aries. So you can even go back to April of this year and see, what you might have started or initiated and how that's going, and review that too.
Right.
So do you have anything else to say about the full moon?
Nope. That's all I would say, basically.
Okay. So Justin and I both have newsletters and YouTube channels, and we both do consultations, and we'd love to do a consultation for you. I want to thank everybody for watching today and those that watch in the future. Justin and I do 3 episodes of full moon forecast, the monthly forecast, and a Chiron asteroid series. And then I have a series, the Astrology Star Sisters Talk Over Tea, and I do a dwarf planet episode, and the decans with astrology and tarot, and the fixed stars, You're a Cup Full of Stars. And then with Madam Simon, we do different astrological happenings, retrogrades, direct planet stationing, direct, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then Justin and I will be on Top Cosmos on October 27th, and you can watch it here on my YouTube channel. It's at 1 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and it'll be the Scorpio new moon. And you can go ahead and talk about yours.
Yeah, I'll also be on a show coming up this Sunday on Talk Cosmos, which is talking about the election, the political election. We're going to look at some of the charts for the swing states through for Pennsylvania and Georgia, and with the 2 candidates. So that'll be kind of interesting. And then also, if you go to my YouTube page, you'll see another podcast that I do with Michael Bartlett. We do the Relationship Guys podcast, and we've been getting a lot of great feedback on that, and people are wanting their charts done on theirs. So something to think about if you want your relationship chart read on the air, and we can use anonymous name. So that's something fun that we do, and that's it.
Thanks. And then again, to get a hold of Justin, it's justincrockettLZ.com, and my website is alightpath.com. And I just rebuilt my website, so take a look.
Yes, it looks great, by the way.
So I want to thank everybody for being with us today, and we look forward to seeing you on future episodes. And that's it for today. Thank you.